Hey everyone, welcome back to Wild Moonlight Vlogs, or hello if you're new. My name is Raven and today we are crocheting Sokka from Avatar: The Last Airbender. I started off by just picking out the yarn. I feel like I don't give my yarn storage enough of the limelight, so I wanted to share picking out all the yarn today. Obviously with Sokka's clothes and him bringing from the water tribe, I mostly stuck to blue shades and a little bit of white, and then just some darker skin tones and browns for his boots and backpack and, well, his body, face, and everything. And then I just started off by crocheting his feet. I forgot what stitch count I had used to do Katara, so he actually ended up coming out a little bit smaller. He is like more like 4 inches tall instead of 6 inches. I mean, I don't actually measure them, I'm just sort of looking at them right now because they're on my desk, and he is so much shorter than Katara, but I still think he came out really cute. But I started off the boots with a magic circle, and then I was afraid to increase every stitch, so I only increased every other stitch, which is where everything went wrong, but thankfully everything ended up proportionate, so it does work out. It's really hilarious watching Sokka be shorter than his younger sister. Anyways, I do crochet the boots first, and I make them both individually, and then I can join them together with the blue yarn from the body. This makes it into legs, which I think is a pretty nice effect. It sort of makes it feel like one piece and very seamless instead of sewing the legs on later, which I've done that method too. I think it works really well for like floppy teddy bears, but if you want it to be able to stand up, I like this method a little bit better. Once I can join everything with the blue yarn, I just continue upwards with the body, and then I was joined by my supervisor, who is not at all getting in the way, and she totally did not crawl across me to try and lay on top of the yarn that I was trying to keep out of her reach, and I totally did not lose my stitch marker this way. Nothing of that nature happened. I was a little irritated, and so that was actually the end of the first work day, just to give myself a little bit of a break. Actually, I think I lost the stitch marker when I started working on his head, because I didn't feel the need to use the stitch marker on the body. With Katara, I did try to add a little bit of shaping for the shoulders, and with Sokka, I decided to just go straight and not add any shape work to see how I liked that. I don't think I have a preference between the two. I think I might prefer Sokka's shoulders. I don't know. I don't think it matters too much. It's one of the smaller details that just doesn't seem to matter. Once the body was done, I actually didn't stuff it for some reason, but once the body was done, I went ahead and started off with the head. Oh no, I know why I didn't stuff the body. The stuffing was across the room, and I was afraid if I got up that Daisy would go straight for the yarn. She doesn't always go for the yarn, and she doesn't destroy the yarn or anything. It's just I didn't want her laying on top of it, because then she gets grumpy when I try and take it from her. So that is why I didn't stuff the body, but I did start off by crocheting the head, and then, I lost my stitch marker and I called it quits for the day, which is probably a good thing. It'd been a long day of editing. the head was mostly crocheted and I had started decreasing to create the bottom shape of the head, I added in the safety eyes and I added in the stuffing. I got my safety eyes from Amazon. There were a lot of kits and I just picked a random one, and I don't know the size of the safety eyes that I'm using because it doesn't have markings or labels or anything on the kit that I got. But I stuffed the body and then I pinned the body to the head, which felt kind of brutal, and I just started sewing the body to the head and started on the arms. I tried to make sure that I replicated Sokka's costume well. His sleeves are different than Katara's, and he has that sort of like white gauze around his forearms. So I did white there, and I ended up making 3 arms because the second arm came out a little bit big. I think I added a stitch somewhere, but the other 2 came out fine, and so those were the 2 that I used. I also did the same thing with the legs. I made 3 legs instead of 2 because one of them came out a lot bigger. Oh, I didn't think about that for a second. Once the arms were attached, I started on the hair piece. Originally, I thought I was going to do sort of like how I did with Katara, where I made a wig cap and then split the hair on top to make it look like real hair. I actually ended up just leaving the flat piece as his hair because, as you know, if you've seen the show, his hair is pulled back pretty tight. And then I just added the ponytail in the back. And to create the shapework, I just increased only in the center stitches as I went upwards. So I started off with a rectangle and then just increased in the middle to make a little hump arrow thing. It worked and I liked it, and then I just went ahead, attached hair to make his ponytail. I used a mini elastic that you would use for people hair, and used that to keep his ponytail together. And then I snipped all of the hair, which ended up getting all over my house, and I thought a big piece of his hair was a bug at some point, and I thought it was on me, so I scared the crap out of myself. Just like with Katara, I wanted to add in his robe skirt thing. I don't want to call it a skirt, but that's kind of what it looks like anyways. And his coloring was a little bit more blue toned than white in the screenshots that I got off of Google. So I went with a light blue instead of a white. They do have the same base blue for their outfit, but the details are a little bit different. So I foundation single crocheted enough to wrap around his waist, and then I crocheted the ends together and then just created the flaps with the base blue and just crocheted a rectangle, and I think it worked pretty well. And then that was sewn to the body and other details were added. Now that the skirt was attached, I went ahead and crocheted a plain chain long enough to wrap from the waist of his skirt up around his neck, sort of like the opening of a robe, which is what this is supposed to look like. And then I started on with his satchel, and I've made tiny little bags in the past before. It's pretty easy. I did mess up. I was nervous about crocheting it directly around him, and so I just made the strap too big and fit it over him, and I ended up stretching out the strap. But either way, it looks like how it's supposed to look, so I'm fine with it. And then I started off with Boomy. I didn't originally plan to crochet Boomy. I didn't know if I was going to crochet him or make it out of felt or just leave it out entirely, but I'm really glad that I decided to crochet it because I think it was really cute and it was a fun little shape work to play with. And here is the end result. I am pretty happy with how this came out, even though he came out really small. So I hope you guys like him too. Let me know what you think in the comments down below, and I would love to know who you think is coming up next week. I really hope I made it obvious this week. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today. Please hit subscribe, and I will see you guys on Wednesday. Bye.